Okay, we are live. I'm here with my good friend Omid. Omid, how you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me, Ali.
Yeah, no problem. It's good. We've chatted a bunch, and I think that in this market especially, it's important to have some guidance and some people that you can trust. And we've had a lot of conversations, and you're one of the people that I trust, and I know you're going to give it to us straight. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about the real estate market. I mean, there doesn't really not a lot of time goes between people in Vancouver talking about, what's going on in the real estate market, right?
Yeah.
So, but before we jump into that, tell us a little bit about yourself. Um, I've got some questions here prepared, but we can take it in any other direction that we want to go. Um, but for the people that don't know you, how did you get into real estate? And tell us a little bit about your background. And no one wakes up in the morning one day and says they want to be a real estate agent, right? At least I don't think so, right? You don't grow up dreaming that.
Yeah. Yeah. The real estate was one of the things that I could never imagine getting into that. And the things that I had always heard that real estate agents make good money and the communication they have with the clients, they try to be very luxury, riding very nice cars, living like very fashionable things. That was one of things that I didn't like it. I don't like fancy cars. I don't like to do those showing as a real estate agent. I'm rich. I'm different with other people. But
Mm,
COVID hit. I'm originally a chef and still cooking actually. Uh, so I was a chef and COVID hit. We got the layoff. I was working with a big company. They have a different functions restaurant. And so while every day during COVID, not going to work, walking the neighborhood, I saw the house across us sold. And I was walking with my wife. My wife said, "You should be a real estate agent. Now, even now is COVID, but the sale is going on. And you see that guy, I'm sure he made just like $20,000 with selling that house." I said, "Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm here. Yeah, let's do it." Then within 2 weeks, I registered for the real estate course with the UBC. And so I finished it in a couple of months, maybe 5 months. I got my license. So I
yeah.
got my license, and like other agents, before getting license, you think, oh, people coming to you, okay, can you sell me a house, sell me my house, or can you buy me a house?
Yeah.
And of course, it was not that easy, and it's not a shop you open and people come to you and buy
Mm,
something from you and sell something to you.
yeah.
So the hard part started is not that easy. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I was seeing that many people struggle to buy a house with the market, with the down payment, with the inflation. And somehow I was really interested if I can help somebody. Like I could see my families, my friend, everybody struggling with renting and dealing with the landlords, dealing with the like all the apartment leaking, those things. I was
Yeah.
always interested if I somehow I can help them.
Interesting. So yeah, you shared a little bit about your origin story when we first met,
Yeah,
and you sort of you answered my next question, but I came up with a question just listening to you in terms of your previous life
yeah,
in the culinary industry, being a chef.
yeah,
Do you feel as though they're like, is it it's obviously a completely different um, type of work that you're doing now, but is there any particular skills that you find from um, your previous life? And I guess you're still doing that, which is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
But what's one thing that you can say that you could transfer over skill wise?
I could say communication skill. Like
Hmm.
I have been running my own restaurant. I used to live like 20 years in Japan. I had restaurant there. I had worked for a private big club in Japan. And
Hmm.
the type of work I was doing is not the chef stuck in the kitchen. I
Hmm.
used to come out and talk to the customer, mingling with them, drinking wine with them, and recommending what type of food matches with their mind, with their drinks. And so all the time communicating with them. So the communication skill
Yeah.
and the talking to people, I think that's the match point between real estate and culinary.
Absolutely, and that's sort of the direction I was hoping that you took this in, because that's one of the things that stood out for me. Your background, not just as cooking chef, but managing restaurants, owning restaurants, um, there's a lot of similarities in like just dealing with people. Any type of um, uh, transaction, be it a small transaction when somebody's coming in for lunch, or maybe a bigger transaction when someone's coming in for a birthday party or retirement. There's so much more behind the scenes than just preparing the food, and that's the same thing in real estate. I think the biggest thing that you nailed is there are people that are struggling, and not everybody's struggling with the same thing. And being able to communicate, and not only that, but understand what someone's struggle is, I think that I think that's one of your strengths. Um, yeah, I mean, it's clear the fact that you were actually running and managing. There's a lot of skills, not just that one skill, but there's a lot of skills. One of the other things is presentation,
Yeah.
and also just the ability to make people feel at ease, because this is extremely emotional. Your client may not win a bid. A client may not get approved for the home that they need. And these are things that you deal with on a regular basis. And again, the communication comes into play, but also that level of respect, right? Now, in in that sense,
Yeah.
what kind of clients do you mostly work with right now? Um, I know when we first spoke, you had mentioned that first time buyers was sort of a niche that you were feeling that you could help the most.
Yeah.
Since then, it's been about almost a year and a half or so. Would you say that that's shifted a little bit, or still you think you're able to help first time buyers the most?
Yeah. Obviously, I'm able to help them, but if I can say shifting, yeah, maybe mostly I work with the sellers. But
Yeah,
once we do open house, many people come and see, and you see many first-time home buyers, and they really need help, somebody to guide them, and not to get stressed during the putting offer.
yeah,
During COVID, we could see like a multi-offer situation, and many people, even they have enough down payment, they would be late few hours and they would lose that property. But now we are not in that situation. They have more options, with the market going downside and more listing available. So the buyers
more
have,
options
have
available for
more
sure.
options to, not scared. They can sleep on their offer and see what they can put and how much they can offer. So they have more options. And still, of course, yeah, I like to help the first-time home buyers. And once in a while, they have like my latest closing we did was a real home buyers, and they were uh, the best part. They were well educated. They were doing their own homework, how much they are able to put for the down payment, and going through bank or their mortgage specialist. And that was really helpful for me and make the job easier for the realtor for in their negotiation regarding to inspection, going through the property. And they had enough knowledge of the closing cost. Many first-time home buyers, they think they have like the uh, down
Yeah,
payment, so they are ready to go, and they are not ready even with their, the pay
yeah,
stub, those things that the mortgage side, better, or they don't calculate the closing costs. And so they get surprised when you
yeah.
ask them they need that one or property transfer tax. So those
That's a big one.
education, yeah, is a
Yeah.
part of a realtor to connect them with a good, mortgage broker, mortgage specialist to guide them through.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, you nailed a couple of questions that I had. But in that it triggered one thing you mentioned. My next question was going to be, what's the one thing that you see behind the scenes that most people don't realize? And that's the big thing is,
Yeah.
especially for first time buyers, people still don't realize they've heard the headlines and they think that you don't have to pay the property transfer tax anymore. That's not the case. There's a sliding scale, and it's up to 850. So if you're purchasing something for 750, it doesn't mean you don't pay any property transfer tax. It means that you have to pay for the first part up to 500 or
Yeah.
520,000,
Yeah.
whatever it was. You're exempt on that point, but there's a sliding scale from from that mark to like the 750 mark. So you
750.
still have to have some money to close. It's not as much as 2%, but there's still some. And I've had situations myself where people haven't budgeted for that, and then when we sit down and we do the budget, it's one of the things that comes up, and then that could potentially delay your your timelines. But imagine if nobody's talked to them about that, and then they're in an offer situation, they win the bid, and then we find out in the middle of subject removal that happens, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure that's happened once or twice in your scenario as well. And that's the thing is, I mean, for me, that's one of the biggest things that comes up behind the scenes. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like in the process, they go and get pre-approval, especially first-time home buyers. They are very excited. Oh, I'm pre-approved for this much amount I can buy. And while waiting for the process to going on, you hear from them that they have signed for a car, new car.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's another
doing
one.
big
Yeah,
shopping. Yeah. They said, what happened? Oh, I'm already pre-approved. And the car dealer said, yeah, you don't have to pay monthly
yeah.
too much, so it doesn't affect. They said, no, they just want to sell their own car, but
Yeah.
you are now in
I
trouble. Yeah.
I've had a couple of situations when they've gotten pre-approved from a bank. They think that they're approved, and um, people don't know that a pre-approval isn't really worth the paper that it's written on, and that you have to maintain the conditions. If you make $100,000, you have to continue to make $100,000. You can't just quit your job because you got a pre-approval.
Yeah.
Car dealers are notorious for this. I've seen it firsthand, where when somebody even says to them, "Hey, I've gotten pre-approved." "Oh, you've already got your mortgage approved. Here, just sign the paperwork here." Right?
Yeah.
That's a big one. In terms of just transitioning over, because this next question relates. I think that in terms of overwhelmed or feeling rushed in this market, especially, buyers, do you still feel that they are feeling rushed, or what's one thing that you have noticed that they feel overwhelmed by? Is it, maybe it's not the rush part, maybe it's the fact that they have a ton of options.
Yeah, that's the second part, I think. I think they feel there is no rush for them, and
Hmm,
they are in a waiting game. They feel
hmm.
the market will come down, and some of them they all
They're trying to
still
time
they
the
think,
market. Yeah,
the market gonna crash. So, and they say, oh, for example, if we have clients thinking to sell their house and upgrade, but they sell now is not the time to sell because market is not good and we can't sell it high, and we'll go for the selling of the low price. I said, so in that case, if you sell it low and the market is low, also you will buy lower. So if you wait for
absolutely.
the market to get better to sell it in the high prices, in that case, the new property that you are going to put offer and buy, you have to pay more. So once you feel you are ready to move and your financial things work for that one is aligned with your desires, you have to move. Waiting doesn't solve any
Yeah,
problem.
absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think we were talking about this a little while ago. There's lots of people in situations where they're in a townhouse right now, and the gap between a townhome and a home
Yeah.
is shrinking a little bit. But everybody essentially that has a townhome that needs to sell their townhome,
Yeah.
they don't want to sell their townhome for $50,000 less, or $100,000 less. They want top dollar.
Yeah.
And then you know what they're missing on is, okay, you take a 50 or $100,000 hit on the sale of your townhome, you're going to get two, three, 350 sometimes off of the value of the home that you're getting. And that short-sightedness is catching people, because
Yeah.
if you don't price your place right in the market, like there's people that started last July, and they left their price this high, and then they drop it, but now the market is here, right? And then you're just
Yeah.
chasing down. And sometimes it takes not you or me telling them that. It takes them having to go through that, and it's unfortunate, but part of that is human nature, I feel, right?
Yeah. They get the hard lesson from their reality.
Yeah. And I mean, would you say that's one of the biggest mistakes that doesn't show up right away? um
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. um Now, in terms of, another question I had was,
Yeah.
where does emotions get buyers in trouble? I guess we've sort of touched on it here. As
Yeah.
as a buyer looking to upsize, emotionally, like I had a situation. I think we must have talked about this. This was about a year ago,
Yeah.
and we had a client who had purchased their house. It was a condo. They had purchased the house for like 350 or something, and they had it on the market. They needed to sell it, but they were not going to take anything less than 799, and they had an offer for 750, and they let it go. And fast forward a year later, there's 8 units that are in that building that are up now,
Yeah.
and I think it's 680 now that they might be able
Yeah.
to get, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They missed the train that time, and they
Mhm.
think always they are waiting, give them more chances, but most of the time they they lose the opportunities in that timing.
The problem is, I think, keeping in mind that if you bought it for 300,000 or 350, and then you say, I'm not going to sell it, my house is worth 799. If everybody's thinking the same thing,
Yeah.
and you list your place for 750, you didn't lose 50,000, right?
Yeah.
You just made like almost, how much is that? You still made double pretty much,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not quite double, but still, right? In terms of so you mentioned the people that you just worked with, they seemed prepared, they seemed ready to go.
Yeah.
Can you explain a different scenario where someone maybe wasn't prepared and some of the problems that they may have faced by not being prepared, and what was the biggest thing that they weren't prepared with?
Most of the time, like many, they think they are ready. They have a pre-approval from before, like 6, 7 months ago. They didn't move. They didn't do any action. And once you find a property for them, their income situation is changed and the company is changed. They think with the same situation, they can buy that house, but they are not approved. Or we have other situation like the person is like renter, waiting like 3 years, always, I'm ready to buy, I'm pre-approved, I have enough money. I don't think I need much mortgage because I have a high income, I have my own company. So let's make a move. Uh, like in that situation, that person always there is some reason my bank doesn't give me, so I connect you with a good mortgage specialist. That mortgage specialist doesn't talk my language. They bring another reason. Then when you introduce them somebody, a mortgage broker with that is same language with them, still they don't move. Then the time they want to start make an offer, that property is gone. Like I had a good, yeah, the specific house they were looking, like they wanted close to the highway in this area, my kids going there. Then when you find them, they are too late and it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, being prepared is the most challenge many of them they have.
It's a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, one thing actually before we jump on, I just want to touch on. There's situations right now, even banks have tightened up. So if you got a pre-approval in the last 6 months to 12 months, even if your situation hasn't changed, even if you earn the same amount of money, you've got the down payment, everything, your credit situation hasn't changed. I had a situation come up like this. The bank, I think it was in September or maybe just at the end of August.
Yeah.
There was a client and we did the numbers, we worked it out. The bank was prepared to give this person $510,000. Okay. Or no, sorry, $550,000, my mistake. And they ended up in November, beginning of November, finding a place. The bank reduced how much they were willing to give them to $510,000, $40,000 less with no changes.
Yeah.
Big reason behind that is the bank's policies internally were tightened up and changed. And as a result, they weren't able to lend the same amount of money for the same person, even though this person's credit profile, nothing changed with them. That is a result of the market as a whole. And therefore, even if you got properly pre-approved, that was, I think, 60 days ago, things could change. So it's very important that you stay on top of things. A quick segue into offers. Now, aside from the price, what would you say from your perspective is a good offer? How can people make a good offer?
So once they have seen the property and they are satisfied with the things with that property, mostly if my clients, they really want that property and they feel that's the place they can imagine living in that property, we try to put the less condition as much as possible. Of course, the financing condition is there, the inspection is there, and we make it more soft and more clear offer that the seller see they have their intention to buy this one and just not the throwing a stone whether it's sticky or not. So like my latest one, we put the subject to the financing and subject to the inspection, and we did a complete inspection of everything about molding, every asbestos, everything. And the buyer was very satisfied. And once we gave that offer, the seller also said that that's a clear and very clean offer. So we go with your offer. Because that property, like 2, 3 times they dropped the price. Then the third time they dropped the price, many people, they were interested. And that was the time that we did the quick action and we put our offer. And the last day we went for the final walkthrough to see whether something wrong and what will be included in a contract. My buyers, they start getting worried. So many people they are here. Is it really our offer is accepted? I said, yeah, our offer is accepted, but they will continue having open house in case you back off. They have a,
Or it falls through.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they have
That's
a
been
standard.
happening a lot
Yeah,
lately as well, is even when you get an offer, financing conditions, some
yeah,
condition, people choose not to remove. It's
yeah,
happening quite a bit.
yeah.
Do you find though, how important do you feel that as from the buyer side, the realtor and the mortgage professional should be communicating, and at what point do you think that communication should start?
Now that communication, I think, should start even before putting offer, those things. That's very important. Like the the most like even the bank when they many times, so the buyers, they think bank is knows everything and they get the best offer. Even when you explain them the bank will you only one option, but when we connect you with a mortgage specialist, they have different lenders and
Mhm.
different rates, and you have more chances to get that one. So when they come that one, the communicating with the mortgage broker is really important. And the client, once they understand that one, before starting the process, we get the phone number, we talk to the mortgage specialist that are they really this much will be approved? Because sometimes they say, yeah, my mortgage broker said I'm approved, but sometimes the story is different. So we
Mhm.
have to make
Mhm.
sure. I always try to, even the bank situation, I try to contact and talk to that person on phone to make sure it's a true story, and there then we can move and put the offer. Without that
and
one, I never do.
and that's actually really good practice. One of the
Yeah,
things I found, especially from the banks,
yeah,
it's really hard to get people on the phone sometimes, or
yeah,
even just communicate with them. They don't want to
yeah,
communicate with you. And that's sort of just goes into the next segue question: is when you're not in alignment, if the mortgage broker or the mortgage provider and the realtor are not aligned, what have you noticed when you are in a situation like that?
yeah.
Um,
Sometimes for me, the communication is very important. Even working with the other agent, with the selling agent or with the buyer's agent, the communication is really important. If I text somebody, so I'm expect in 1 hour they reply me. Otherwise, it's very hard to understand whether you can help your client or not. Like you put your offer, you communicate with the seller agent, did you get it or not? So they
mhm.
have to reply you. And with the mortgage
Especially
broker, it's same thing. Yeah,
Yeah. Especially when you're in an offer situation, I think the communication beforehand is important.
yeah,
And from our perspective, we don't really um get a say sometimes in the dates. And sometimes that can end up being a problem. And it's not
yeah,
like, okay, you have to listen to what we're telling you for dates,
yeah,
but there's certain times in the year, like right now,
yeah,
if we have an offer come in right now, the chances of us being able to turn it around within 24 or 48 hours isn't very good right now because we're in the holiday season.
yeah,
And also to be able to close by December 31st, if we know all of this stuff, then we can prepare the lender. And then if it's not possible, we can come back and then we might be able to triage, right? I always find that if we're in communication with the seller side, even if the offer comes in and then the bank says, hey, we need 48 hours just to review the documents, if you tell them upfront, say, hey, we might need an extension because of this,
absolutely.
it ends up going a lot smoother. There's some people just like to not do that because they feel like, okay, then they're going to take a backup offer or something like that. Um, and I found that usually when we talk alignment, those are things like the lines of communication because we're a team, right?
Yeah,
At the end of the day, on our side, we want to get the deal just done just as much as you do because we don't get paid if the deal doesn't get done either, right?
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And to say that for the subject removal, always I talk to the mortgage specialist for the timing. For example, we put the
yeah.
finance, the subject to finance.
Mhm.
When is good time? I
Yeah.
always make the time with the mortgage broker. Is it 1 week good or 2 weeks good?
Yeah,
I get the most feedback from them. And I always, as you said, we talk to the seller agent that we may have to move it a bit. And they say, for example, it's okay as long as they know it.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
before they agree.
I found most of the time on the selling side, if you just explain it to them and
Yeah,
just say, listen, that because what that shows is
mm,
that shows that the mortgage broker is on it. It shows the clients are on it. It shows that you're on it. So
yeah,
it's actually not a bad thing if you communicate that to
mm,
them.
yeah,
My last file, we had subject removal on a Sunday. Um, and I mean that's basically Friday, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because banks aren't open on the weekend. But the thing is, the bank is going to look and they're going to see, oh, we have 7 days or we have 6 days. You're better off having the subject removal on the Friday because the timeline gets tighter.
yeah.
Because even if you have 2 extra days, if the bank's not open, they're not going to realize that they're not open. They think they have more time because they have like 80 files in front of them. They're not
Mm.
looking at it closely like that, right? Um, so yeah, now in terms of let me see here. In terms of the market right now, um, what do you think buyers are getting wrong the most frequently? What are you noticing?
As I said before, so they have more choices. They think the market is going lower and lower, and for them, more chances to get the better deal if they wait. But the
So you're
waiting
you're
time, yeah,
so to summarize,
yeah,
timing the market essentially, right?
yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I say always when they are ready, when their financial things align with their needs, and they see the property that they see, they can picture them living in that fund. I think that's a good timing for them to move. Waiting doesn't solve, and waiting for the inflation to get better, you can't beat the inflation. So you better ride it.
Fair enough. That's actually a
Yeah,
good point. I think what people um like this is like there's a lot of outside noise. Now, what in particular do you think people should ignore? Do you like I headlines are everywhere. People,
yeah.
I think, they see the noise out there. What's the biggest thing that you would advise people to ignore?
The yeah, the situation around them, they should ignore. I always tell them once you are ready and your financial things, your job, your income, and the property you find, you have to move. Waiting and the listening to the news is happening like the bad thing happening doesn't solve your problem.
So you just kind of nailed the next follow-up question, which
Yeah,
what actually matters. I think that you nailed it. If I can summarize it, if I understood you correctly,
yeah,
it's your particular situation that matters the most. If
yeah,
you need to move and your finances align, you can afford the payments, your job is secure, you don't have anything that you think is going to come up that can potentially impact you financially negatively, then you should move forward.
oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
because I think for most people, and again, the biggest outside noise that I think that people need to ignore, in my opinion, is that your home should be your biggest investment. Your home is not
Absolutely.
really an
Yeah,
investment, a financial investment.
yeah,
Your home is a life investment. Um, if you need to be near the school, if you need to be near the hospital, if you need to be near the SkyTrain, those are just as important factors if whether or not this house will appreciate in 10 years, right?
yeah,
Those are some important things. And I
absolutely.
think that perspective, yeah. Um, Now, if someone was planning to buy in the next 6 to 12 months, in your opinion, what should they focus on right now if they want to get there in 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I think so. Down payment is very important. Yeah, not to do big shopping, like buying a
Wait
car,
till you buy your
fancy
car,
car.
right? Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
when many people they make mistake, and that side I'm so disappointed. Why they make that move now?
yeah.
Let's settle in your house, and you can do those movement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
that's a good point, Omid.
yeah,
Before we jump forward on that,
yeah,
sorry, just want to clarify for some people out there.
yeah,
If you have, let's say you want to go out and buy a big pickup truck that's going to cost you $1,200 a
yeah,
month. If you buy that now,
yeah,
it's going to impact your mortgage. But once
absolutely.
you get your mortgage, you can go and buy that car
Yeah,
and the same payment. As long as you can afford that payment, the car dealer is not going to have a problem with it. But the bank is going to have a problem with it if
yeah,
it's on your books before. So if you buy your house and you're in your house, then you can decide on what you want to do later on, as long as you make your
yeah.
payments, right?
That's why I
Go ahead.
recommend many of my clients don't go to car dealers for a few months,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
once you
yeah,
go there, yeah, they know how to catch you, and you see those
yeah.
cars, so you fall in love with them.
and they tell you that you're getting this rebate and these
Yeah,
deals.
exactly.
Most people, they don't look at the fine print, right?
Yeah.
You were going to say, did I cut you off there to jump in there?
Yeah, I was about the market we are talking, that the buyers.
6 to 12 months, what would they do? So one of the,
Yeah, the main thing, they just continue, saving more for their uh, down payment. And the first time home buyers definitely like is end of the year. If they don't have a first time home buyer saving account, they open it now. Even if they put $100, $200 now, doesn't matter. It will carry over for the next year. They can save up to $8,000 there. Tax free is like RRSP. They can withdraw
yeah,
it when they're gonna buy a
that,
new house. So that
that's an
one
excellent
able to
point.
do.
In the
Yeah,
next 2 weeks,
yeah,
right? If they even if they open it, just put $1 in it, put $2 in it,
yes, yeah.
that carries forward their room, right?
Yeah, and I said like I was having a conversation with uh, the young couple that they have a son also. The son is turning 18. I said once he's turned 18, I think it should be 18, can open the first time home buyer account. Even
Mhm.
for him, if you open, in case you plan to buy a house, you can put your son name also there as long as
Mhm.
he has a job like that and using that money. So it will helps a lot. So
Yeah,
yeah, use all your resources,
mhm.
family, yeah, to do the first step. And
That's
after that, you can change the situation.
that, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Now what what do you find, like, if you were buying today and you had a realtor, what's the question that you feel like you should be asking early on in the process, but you don't really see most people asking?
Uh, to the realtor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main thing is that the realtor is really to help them, that they can reach the realtor anytime they decide, because sometimes they find a property on their own and they go to the open houses, they see something, they meet different realtor and they hear good things, so they fall in love with that property. They better have good communication with the realtor, and
Mm.
the realtor, the real one, so will help them.
And your
Yeah,
advice would be to not just talk to one person, talk to a few people, because that's how you're
exactly.
gonna,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you get
yeah,
different idea.
yeah. Um, Now, in terms of in the last 6 to 8 months, what have you found yourself telling people over and over again? Like if there's a buyer, for instance,
Yeah.
what do you find you're telling buyers all the time lately?
Yeah, most of the time is pre-approval things. As you
Pre-approvals. Yeah.
said, yeah, they think pre-approval and approved is the same.
Yeah.
But when you go for the approval, you see, no, they are not approved for that much because their financial situation is changed even within 3, 4 weeks because of
Yeah.
the financial move they did.
One thing I've asked, or not asked, but I've mentioned to realtors, when instead of asking a client whether or not they've been pre-approved, if the answer to that being pre-approved is yes, the follow-up question should be, are you properly pre-approved? And they'll be like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? And then you explain to them, has your documents been reviewed? Has
Yeah.
your credit been pulled? Have you had this? Because most of the time with banks, they only go in and they do a rate hold. If you tell the bank the information, they're not going to check the information.
Yeah.
And the big reason for that is with the banks. Most of the time, banks work with odds, right? There's a
Yeah.
1 in 10 chance that if you have a pre-approval that you're going to close a mortgage with the bank. But when you have an offer, there's a 7 in 10 chance.
Yeah.
So most banks, they don't do anything with your paperwork, with any review or anything like that until you have an offer.
Yeah.
So it's important that you find somebody that's willing to do the work. Now, what's something that people will be surprised to learn about you outside of real estate, like your clients? What do you share with them? If there's one thing, I know you mentioned you're a chef. What else? Like if you were have a conversation, what are they most often surprised to hear?
They surprised that I know different language. I can speak Japanese. I can write Japanese. That's
That
when they
is
get
that is one
surprised.
thing that surprised me when you told me that you can
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Um, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Um, what keeps you grounded? I know life as a realtor,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be on 24/7. It's tough sometimes. Your daughter might be at a school play and the phone might
Yeah.
ring and you
Yeah.
might have to take the call. So what keeps you grounded? What do you do?
So the most important things for me is my family. Like as you said, my daughter doing dance and uh, dropping her to the dance. Like while you're going, you get a call from the client, especially when you have offer. Those is
Mhm.
really stressful timing.
Yeah.
communicating with the seller agent, with the buyer, with the mortgage specialist. But since the family is your, most loved things, you
That's what
get
you do it for.
accepted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those, like when I see the families, first time home buyers, they are same situation as me. They have small kids, like teenagers. So I feel my feeling is that helping them in the real, I see their kids is like my kids, and I do my best to help them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So one of the things we do
yeah,
is we have an understanding,
yeah,
and I mean I think you probably do this with your wife as well, is set expectations. If we're
yeah,
going out, let's say there's an offer coming in, you say you might
yeah,
have to step away for a few minutes and deal with it.
yeah,
We always try and say, okay, I've got 10 minutes.
yeah,
Step away, but then after 10 minutes you're back, right?
yeah,
Um, Now, if people want to reach out or learn more about you,
yeah.
what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
So they can email me, Omid Piru on Gmail or royallepage.ca, and they can text me.
Text is the best way.
Yeah,
So we'll put your contact information at the bottom in the comments.
yeah.
If anybody wants to reach out.
Thank you.
You know, before we sign off though, this was great. I really appreciate your time
Yeah,
coming on here. I think that this episode has a lot of nuggets in here.
yeah.
But any final advice for buyers listening who feel overwhelmed? What would you tell them?
I always tell my buyers when they come to me and we are looking for this area buy, my first advice is, have you been pre-approved? I try to connect them to I try to connect them to the mortgage broker. Sometimes they say, oh, we have bank, we're working, but still, do you want me to connect you with my trusted financial advisor? And they guide you the process and pre-approval you need. And I asked them, if you have not done that one, sorry, I can't just take you and show you a house because it's waste of time. I like to help you, but that's how start the process of house buying.
Yeah, one of the first conversations I had, I remember we were talking about like when somebody gets overwhelmed,
Yeah,
the best way to break things down is you look at where they want to be, right?
yeah,
If they want to be in this house, if they want to be in this house, a year from now, 6 months from now, what is it going to take? So you almost work backwards. When you
yeah,
work backwards, um, and I like the fact that I do this for not everybody, but people that I know are not going to quote unquote waste time is like if for example if you have a client, even if they've already been pre-approved, if they're not sure, um, have a conversation. I'll have a conversation with them and I'll just make sure and double check that they're being looked after. And
yeah,
then if they're being looked after, just letting you know. So having that trusted relationship like that, I think goes a long way. And I know that's one of the things that you offer as well sometimes. I mean, we've had conversations and I've let you know that, yeah, you know what, this person's looked after, or this person, if they need this, whatever.
yeah,
And likewise, I feel comfortable even if somebody is already represented. If they have some questions or they're not feeling satisfied, you've stepped in a couple times and fielded a conversation. So I think that um, overall, anything that I've asked you here
yeah.
that you maybe want to add to, or you feel that we haven't covered, is there, just before we sign off, one last thing?
I think we covered everything. Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Ali.
All right.
Yeah,
Omid, thanks again for joining us,
yeah.
and enjoy the holidays. And you know what? We might want to have you back on in the early part of next year. We'll work on that. Was that be something that you'd like to do?
I would be glad. Thank you, Ali, for having me.
Awesome, guys. And then thanks everybody for tuning in. If there's any questions, you can reach out to Omid. His information will be in the comments. And we do check these comments regularly. So if you have any comments, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. We're just here to help. Thanks again, Omid, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.